That time of the year again, everybody. This is the first of 4 2023 season previews coming your way here on the Global Baseball Network. GBN Unscripted number 4. This episode is, I think. And you know how things work around here? Let's jump right in. We're going to take a look at NPB. We're going to bring up our projected lineups, see what each team is bringing to the table for the 2023 season, and then try to predict who finishes first and who finishes last. Because as we learned last year, predicting the playoffs is an almost pointless endeavor at the start of the year. So we will start with the defending champion, Oryx Buffaloes. They really got it together last season. Obviously, they came up short against the Swallows, but on this occasion, in the rematch of the 2021 contest, they came out on top. Fortunately for them, they still have some big bats in the order to play with. You have the triple machine Yuma Mune at third base. We got Marwin Gonzalez and Frank Schwindel coming in as the two new Gaikokujin hitters. We'll see how Schwindel does coming off a very disappointing MLB campaign, but couldn't have been more disappointing than Marwin Gonzalez's 2022. So both those guys looking for rebounds, definitely still have their dynamite rotation headed by their ace, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, having a terrific World Baseball Classic so far. But the man you really want to look out for is Yutaro Sugimoto out in left field, looking to have another strong campaign in his, I guess, third season for the first team. And then Tomiya Mori, a guy who profiles very similarly to Masataka Yoshida in terms of offensive ability, maybe a tiny bit more power than Yoshida, but defensively, he is a bit of a liability. Taken from a Lions fan, I'm not going to steer you wrong on this one. Mori is a catcher with excellent offensive upside, but really awful defensive downside. So that'll be the question mark there. The good news for them is they haven't lost any of the big pieces from the Japan series run aside from Yoshida, which on paper means that they will at least go far in the playoffs again this year, maybe even win it all. But let's move on to the runner-ups. 2021 Japan Series champion Yakult Swallows, another team that has lost very little from its deep playoff run, if anything at all. Munetaka Murakami, Tetsuro Yamada, Domingo Santana all back out for another go-around. And Yasutaka Shiomi, a guy who I think is sneakily the best center fielder in NPB. Great power, good speed, obviously a terrific contact bat too. That's what he's most known for. But his defense is spectacular. And, you know, he's not really going to be a guy who is going to require those big money contracts every few years. I think he can really slide under the radar as a superstar for this Swallows team. But if everything goes to plan, I don't think it will. I think Yuhei Nakamura is probably going to regress. Does Munetaka Murakami come back after another season and hit as many home runs as he did? Probably not. Could he hit 50? Absolutely. But he is kind of a streaky hitter. We saw him cool off towards the end of the season before he hit number 56, and obviously he was amazing in the playoffs, but that's the playoffs. And this is a long, long season, even if it isn't as long as the traditional 162 in America. So will they make it all the way back to the Japan series? I don't feel comfortable saying yes. I do feel comfortable saying probably. But we will alternate in Pacific League to take a look at the team that was the pennant favorites in the PL before they had a bit of a collapse in the playoffs last year. Those nasty Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks who won the Kensuke Kondo sweepstakes in the offseason. That is the big story for them. And he brings one of the hottest and most talented bats in Japan into that left field spot for them. He's also a guy who can play multiple positions. He can play the corner infields. You can have him catch if you really want to. And with the way Takuya Kai's been hitting, they actually might, as they have a bunch of talented outfielders who they might be willing to give a shot. Again, not too many departures aside from Kodai Senga going over to MLB and getting ready to pitch for the New York Mets in the 2023 season. his very first MLB campaign, much anticipated MLB campaign. Obviously, we saw him dominate in the 2017 WBC, got his name on a bunch of scouts' radars, but even though the Hawks gave up an ace to MLB, they decided to take one back, and Kohei Arihara will return to his homeland from a couple years stay in Texas and fill that ace role nicely. And it's another big pieces in that Hawk rotation. Will they regress? Maybe. Now Higashihama still looking pretty strong, and then you have perhaps the advent of the Rei Takahashi we've been promised for a number of years, but everybody's getting a little older. Just a little bit older. Looking at you, Yuki Yanagita. Looking at you, somebody like Taki Akai, somebody like Akira Nakamura. Will they be as fresh as they normally are? I think it's all down to Kensuke Kondo, personally. Can he put this team on his back and give the Hawks a really scary outfield in the person of Yuki Yanagita helping him out? Gita has been struggling injury-wise in these last few years, as everyone knows. And will he be the same bat that we're used to seeing, or will there be some signs of wear and tear? Obviously, he's got sort of that hole in his swing that's been much publicized. He's a great sort of launch angle upswinger, is Gita. So will he be the same hitter? I'm going to put my money on no, and I think it really will be up to Kondo here to determine this team's future. I think on paper they've got a lot of talent. Obviously, Ukyo Shuto is kind of that spark plug who you can put anywhere, and he's unpredictable and fun to watch. But I don't think we're going to see the same level of talent out of this Hawk squad. So where will they finish? You're going to have to stay tuned. Let's jump back over to Central League and talk about the surprise team of the 2022 season. These DNA Bay Stars, who not pictured, recently made a really spectacular signing for them, at least on paper anyway. We don't really know how he's going to be in the clubhouse, but Trevor Bauer coming in from America, disgraced former Cy Young winner, who will be filling in alongside Shota Imanaga, providing the firepower in the Bay Stars rotation. And Imanaga, a guy who had a terrific 2022, and he's not really showing any signs of slowing down. And there are just a couple of sneaky superstars in this Bay Stars lineup. I love Shugo Maki. He's not exactly sneaky, obviously. A lot of people talking about him and the kind of upside that he has. Year after year, his defense getting better and turning into a sort of Tetsuya Yamada in his prime. And I would kind of love to see that, especially as Yamada is sort of morphing into something different in the twilight years of his career. You have Natali Soto still swinging the bat extremely well. You have a guy who I'm also very high on, kind of a similar profile to Yasutaka Shiomi, Masayuki Kuwahara out there in center field, really just sort of swiping a bunch of bags and hitting the gaps like nobody's business. And I want to see Tyler Austin get really healthy here and finish a full 143 in NPB, because he has been one of the best Gaikokujin hitters in the country in the last few years that he's been in Japan. And if he is healthy, the way he swings the bat, these guys are going to go pretty far. Will they unseat the Swallows? They have a shot at it, honestly. Keita Sano doesn't even really need to be talked about. We know what kind of offensive upside he has. He's in that DH role because he cannot play defense, and everyone knows that. Back over to the PL, and we are going to take a look at my dear, sweet Seibu Lions. And they let go of a number of their sort of foreign hitters who were not performing all that well. I thought Brian O'Grady did a pretty good job for him last year, but that's just me. I'm not a GM. He's over in Korea, and we'll talk about him when we do the KBO season preview next time on the show. The big departure is a franchise face in Tomio Mori going over to a Pacific League rival. Can't really blame him. You want to get paid. I'm going to miss him, but he will definitely be missed behind the plate. Masatoshi Okada, kind of a similar guy to Tongu over there on the Buffaloes, who brings plenty of a defensive skill to the party, but he's still very, very young and has struggled at the plate. Kind of a young outfield, too, to look out for these Lions. Shohei Suzuki and Seiji Kawagawa really showing what they can do last season after the regression of guys like Yuji Kaneko. And we'll kind of have to see how they perform. We could see a guy like Gakuto Wakabayashi coming in and getting some games in left field, and we've seen glimpses of Aito Takada's upside in right field offensively, but he has struggled defensively down there. We'll see what kind of work he's done in the offseason to see if he locks down that spot in right field. I'm going to be really looking at Shinya Hasegawa, who was outstanding offensively coming up from the farm team in limited action in 2022. And, you know, it doesn't really bear talking about too much because we're having the usual suspects coming back in the infield. Otaka Yamakawa, great bounce back season from him last year. I want 50 out of him this year. Is he capable of it? Absolutely. He was really made some terrific adjustments at the plate, and he is looking very, very dialed in. So we'll see if he stayed hot and stayed strong working in the offseason, and if he hits the ground running to start 2023. Back over to the CL, and Koshin's finest stepping into the limelight now. And we were talking about Teruaki Sato all year last year. Absolutely splendid rookie season from him, in parts, obviously. I think it was an 0 for 24 streak that he went on towards the end after he cooled off a little bit. And they're bringing him in to play first base because Jeffrey Marte, as you can see, is nowhere to be found in this lineup. And they want to give somebody out there in right field with a bit more defensive upside a chance out there, because Sato has a great arm, but his defense is lacking just a tiny bit. If he can put him on first base where his only job is to catch and he can come up and really hit the ball hard, I think that's going to work out pretty well for him. Some new foreign faces, as you can no doubt see. I've just realized I put Sheldon Noisy on there twice. My bad about that. Just tells you he can play pretty much anywhere. When he's not DHing, he'll play second base. And you definitely want to keep an eye on Johan Mieses, who's their other foreign acquisition out there in right field. We'll see how long he lasts and if he can add his name to the ranks of the very, very few foreign hitters who have succeeded in a Tigers uniform the last few years. I really want to see another good, strong season from Yusuke Oyama, a guy who averages about 25-30 home runs a season ever since back 2016-2017 time. He had a good season last year, not as good as his 2021, but he could definitely come back and really surprise you with some power out of the third base hole. And I want to see if Takemu Nakano really nails down the defense. He doesn't really have any defensive upside at all, or offensive upside, unless he gets on base, because he is very, very fast. So a lot of work for the young rookies. This is a very young team. Some veterans here and there, of course, thinking Umino, thinking Chikamoto, but it's largely a young team that is really looking to prove themselves. And they had a good 2022, not a great 2022. They need to perform in the playoffs, because this is a team that does have talent when it shows up. But the problem is, it doesn't really show up very often. Down to the PL we go once again, and we'll take a look at Sendai's finest now. A largely unchanged lineup from 2022, aside from the shortstop spot. Toshiki Abe in a pretty high-profile trade coming over from the Chunichi Dragons, a guy with terrific defensive upside, but part of a really, really awful Dragons hitting core. And now Daichi Suzuki, that means, will move over to second base, letting Egoro Mogi keep his spot at third. They really needed the offense to show up last year. Their pitching staff was pretty terrific, and it remains terrific. No high-profile departures to speak of. Takahito Norimoto still that guy in the ace role. Still some younger guys who are looking to prove themselves, but you know, they really, really need to count on better offensive seasons when it matters from that core in the infield. Obviously, Ryosuke Tatsumi and Haruki Nishikawa, two guys who played very, very well last year, but two guys does not a team offense make. So they're going to go decently far, I think, if they can figure out a way to reliably hit the baseball. And again, trust me, I don't mean that with any disrespect to the Rakuten Golden Eagles, but as a Lions fan, trust me, I know. Onward to the Tokyo Dome as we take a look at Asia's team. I can't really say that with a straight face. New foreign acquisition that we definitely need to talk about. Lewis Brinson coming in. He was really, really hyped up in the offseason. A lot of people following NBB on the internet in English talking about what a good addition Brinson's going to be. A guy who had a lot of promise in MLB, but still hasn't really been able to get it together. And he'll probably be looking to parlay 1 or 2 good years over here in a Giants uniform into an MLB comeback. He's still very young, and we've definitely seen flashes of his brilliance, and I think Tatsunori Hara is going to be very happy if a little bit of that brilliance shines through from his center fielder. More importantly, this does allow Yoshihiro Maru to move into the right field spot, focus a little bit more on hitting, take a little bit of the pressure off defensively, because he's not the player that he was, and that has been abundantly clear when he has been in a Giants uniform. Definitely losing some speed as he has gotten up there in age, but still hitting the baseball with the best of them. Adam Walker back with the Giants for another year after a pretty solid opening season in Japan. And then, aside from young Kazuma Okamoto's having a pretty terrific WBC, a very encouraging sign from the bat of the young third baseman, still have the veterans Hayato Sakamoto and Sho Nakata in the infield. Just kind of doing their thing, to be honest. Kind of a down year from Sakamoto, hampered by injuries. And we want him to come back and see if he can hit that 2, maybe 3,000 hit mark after another few strong seasons in these big leagues. To the PL we go another time, and we'll take a look at the Roki Sasaki show in the person of the Chiba Lotte Marines, because you look at that lineup. You look at Takashi Ogino. You look at Gregory Polanco, who's coming over in a trade from the Giants. Who else do you see? Anybody who's really proven it on the big league level, again, aside from Sasaki? You have Komatsukawa, who is very, very young and proven himself as a battery mate for Sasaki, to be sure. Seiya Inoue, a guy with great power when he shows up to the field, but just can't make contact with the baseball to save his life. You have a guy like Shogo Nakamura, who has been kind of a career fine hitter. You know, he can do everything marginally okay, and that's impressive in and of itself, but he hasn't had a real big world beater season yet out of him. And then, speaking of doing everything just fine, Hisanori Yasuda, a guy who was really hyped up, but has not really delivered on that hype much at all. I don't really think that this team is going to go anywhere. But it will be very, very fun to watch Roki Sasaki pitch as it was last year. And less said about the rest of this team, the better. Back to Central League, and we will take a look at the Hiroshima Toyo Carp. Now, this is a team that has some very exciting young upside that I really am looking forward to watching. Obviously, Masato Morishita coming back for another strong year on the mound in the ace role, coming up on his age 24 season here, and his stuff is only getting better by the year. And speaking of only getting better by the year, Shogo Sakakura coming in to probably be the everyday catcher. I don't really see why not. You could play him anywhere. He's another guy like sort of Kensuke Kondo who can play anywhere on the field. His offensive upside, his swing, I am so high on it. I'm going to be entirely honest with you. He spreads the ball to all fields. He gets good sections of the barrel on the ball. He's going to be fun to watch this year. Ryan McBroom, a great foreign acquisition for him last year, coming back for another go-around. Kota Hayashi, maybe a guy who's getting something together. Ryoma Nishikawa, a guy who's going to be getting something together. And then you have the veteran presence of Ryosuke Kikuchi and Kaito Kozuno in the middle of the infield, who are going to be doing just fine. Kikuchi's a guy who you watch for his defense and not much else. He comes up with a clutch hit here and there, and he definitely will go down in history as a franchise face. Is he a Hall of Famer? Probably. Again, I don't really know. He's definitely well regarded for his service to his country. A great player for Samurai Japan, and a great player for these Carp. But, again, kind of a question mark with this Carp team. The pitching was marvelous, and the offense couldn't quite keep up here. So if they turn it around, expect good things to happen for the Hiroshima Toyo Carp. And we will drop to the bottom of the PA League now. A couple of acquisitions to talk about for the Fighters. The big one is Ariel Martinez coming over from the Chunichi Dragons to solidify the catcher spot in the absence of Kensuke Kondo. And this is, again, another team, very, very young, very, very unproven. Not a terribly consistent offensive core, but I think Tsuyoshi Shinjo can get some good things out of him, if at all possible. He's definitely got some good things out of his ace. Naoki Osawa, who's had a terrific year, got a really young, talented group of bullpen arms who have been towing the slab exceptionally well for them. But, they just need to figure out a way to hit the baseball, and I think it all comes down to cleanup hitter Kotaro Kiyomiya, whose average was absolutely heartbreaking last year. And he didn't really display any of the power that we've seen from him in past years. Nowhere to go but up. But look for Kiyomiya to have a big bounce back year. I believe in that guy. And now we'll take a look at the bottom of the Central League. And no one was surprised when this happened, because show me the good hitter. Show me the good hitter in this lineup. A lot of the sort of same similar criticisms leveled against them as against the Chivalote Marines. You have Viciedo, who's coming back for another year as their sort of stalwart Gaijin hitter. He was fine, but he had probably his first bad season of his career, and he's getting up there in age. He's only going to get worse. And Yuya Yanagi and Yudai Ono deserve to have a better team around them. They're just not really making it even really on TV because they're not just good to watch. It's a similar situation to that of the Dragons teams of the 60s. You had some standouts, but not a real sort of team performance on any given day of the week. Obviously, Aristides Aquino, a guy who we've seen a lot of in the major leagues, going over there to try to have a career bounce back. His power is quite exceptional, and he could be a guy that really turns things around for this Dragons team. But you have the loss of Abe to talk about at shortstop. Good defender, good hitter, and I think his loss will be felt. I don't think it normally would be on another team, but I think it will be here. And I haven't really seen them make too many high-profile acquisitions or high-profile changes that suggest that they're going to go anywhere from the bottom of Central League. I think they'll look good for a little bit and then just have the bottom drop out from under them, as is often their MO. But that wraps up the standings here, and we will take a look at the predictions now. I'm going to lock it in. We're going to see how it shapes up in 2023. But there you have it. There you have it. I'm thinking the Swallows are going to get it together and win the Central League pennant. Same situation with the Buffaloes. Not really a big change in the Pacific League, aside from the Marines finishing fourth. And obviously 4, 5, 6 doesn't really matter all that much. They're going to be in a tough fight with the Lions because both of them are big offensive question marks. The Marines have substantially more upside in their pitching staff than the Lions do, but their offense is much, much better than what the Marines could ever possibly bring to the table. So they'll be going 3-4. The Eagles, they had a bad year last year. I'm thinking it's going to be another bad year for them unless something big really changes. But as I said, the Swallows in front in PA League. Baystar is going to be getting that second place finish for the second year in a row. And I think it'll be the Giants who sneak in to maybe make a little bit of noise in the playoffs before they're eventually knocked out by the Baystars. Tigers, Carp, and Dragons falling short yet again. Not much else to say about it, really. That's my story, and I am sticking to it. We're going to be bringing you season previews for KBO and CBPL before the end of the month. And then when the LMB rolls around, we're going to be taking a look at how things will shape up in Mexico. So stay tuned for that. And we are currently working on part 2 of The Tale of the King. Thank you very, very much for watching the first part of that series. Whether or not you watched the original or the re-uploaded version with better audio. I will link them both in this video and in the description. Part 2 coming very, very shortly. But we're going to go ahead and do some work on the KBO season preview here, and we'll see you next time for that. Until then, go Samurai Japan. Let's wrap this WBC up in style. I've been Marshall Lamert. This has been GBN Unscripted number 4, the season preview show for NPB in 2023. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like and share this video if you enjoyed it, and you know somebody who would enjoy it right along with you. And be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon down below the video screen to be notified every time we upload a new video to get you your fix of the world's greatest game. I've been Marshall Lamert. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. But for now, that's the game.